Hello and welcome back to the Karma Stories podcast. I'm Rob and I hope you are having a wonderful day today. Today I have 4 stories for you from the IDontWorkHereLady subreddit. If you enjoy the content, make sure to follow us on your preferred podcasting platform, and if you're on YouTube, drop a like on the video because it really helps us out. And if you do, my buddy Carmen here just might offer you a bite of his gigantic cookie. Alright, on to the stories, let's jump right in. This story comes to us from Old Bar 3078, I Don't Work Here Lady, Employment Upgrade Edition. I've been reading this board for years, but only today did I finally have a story to share. This morning, I had to bring a car to a service station. I don't know if that term is used everywhere, but around here, it refers to an auto mechanic's garage. My wife and I arrived in separate cars so that she could leave hers with the mechanic and then drive home with me. While I was waiting in my car, a woman walked up and asked me, "Is that your red truck?" Keep in mind that I was behind the wheel of a car at that moment, so it's kind of an odd thing to ask someone if another vehicle is theirs. I guess I could have chained the truck to the back of my car and towed it, though that would have damaged my car. I suppose the best place to damage your car is at a mechanic's garage, since it can be fixed immediately, but I digress. Before responding, I looked around to see the red truck in question. In hindsight, I'm actually not sure why I did that. I don't own a red truck, so no matter which one she was referring to, the answer would have been, no, it isn't. While I was looking around, she pointed at one across the street and said, "Can you fit the washing machine in that?" I hadn't yet caught on that I was in an I don't work here lady situation. I thought she was asking if a generic person could fit a generic washing machine in a generic red truck of that type. So I said, "I think you probably could. The bed looks large enough. That one's kind of full at the moment though. It had a lot of scrap metal in the bed. You might want to ask inside though. I'm not really truck savvy. I'm waiting for my wife." The woman asked, "Well, can you have someone go pick up that washing machine then?" She pointed to one sitting on the side of the road 2 houses away. Then it clicked what she was mistakenly thinking. She thought I worked at the station and was going around picking up scrap metal in a truck, even though I was sitting in a car. So I responded, "Oh, that's not my truck, sorry." She replied, "So, have someone else drive it, what's the problem?" Now, up to this moment, the conversation had been a friendly one. She had a pleasant tone to her voice, and my responses were equally pleasant. But her, "What's the problem?" basically screamed out, "I am Karen." So I went into snark mode. "The problem," I replied, "is that you are pointing to a red truck. I am driving a silver Elantra. As you may have noticed, my silver Elantra has several noticeable differences from that red truck. Key among them is that it is a silver Elantra. That, on the other hand, is a red truck. That's a difference worth mentioning, because one is a car and the other is a truck. Now, since I'm waiting for my wife in this car, not in that truck, you have to understand that I can't very well put something in a truck I clearly am not operating, while simultaneously sitting in this car. And it would be absurd to try fitting a washing machine in my silver Elantra. This is a sports sedan. It would be like trying to fit a whale in a photo booth. Plus, there'd be no room for my wife, who is small, but would still be impacted by the additional presence of a washing machine. Then, I smiled very sweetly. Her brow creased. I had annoyed her. Oh well, don't Karen me next time, Karen. With a pissy attitude, she said, "I obviously don't mean for you to put the washing machine in this car. I'm saying to please either get out of that car and pick up the washing machine with that truck, or else please go inside and have someone else do it." By this point, I was amused by the ridiculous conversation, as it was very clear I didn't work there. I was a customer. So I said, "Well, I don't really tell the people inside the station what to do, other than saying, my car won't go," and then I pay them to fix it. That's where the Employment Upgrade Edition part from the title comes in. Apparently, she mistook my comment to mean I pay them because I own the place. So she said, "Well, maybe you should start telling people what to do if you're paying them. Look, I just need you to have somebody grab the truck and pick up the washing machine. It's an eyesore. Why is this such a hassle? At which point I said, well, let's examine why. You mistook me for an employee, even though I several times told you I'm just waiting for my wife. You asked a guy sitting behind the wheel of a car if a truck was also his. You failed to pick up on the fact that I am a customer at this service station. You then made the logic leap that I own the place, and you proceeded to give me advice on how to run this station that isn't mine. On top of all that, you bizarrely think that a car mechanic would pick up a washing machine, one that you left at the sidewalk, I might add. So I can only assume you're not looking to have it fixed, but are instead throwing it away. That means an auto mechanic would have even less reason to come get it than if you needed it repaired, since this is, in fact, an auto mechanic. Just like it's not a washing machine repair shop, it's also not the town scrapyard. And that, ma'am, is why this is such a hassle. She took a moment to let that all sink in. Then her face blanched, and she did something you typically only see on TV shows. She clamped a hand over her mouth in shock, as if she were about to utter her character's weekly catchphrase, accompanied by a laugh track. Typically something like, "Did I do that?" or "Dope," or "Ruh-roh," or "How you doing?" or "What you talking about, Willis?" or "Danger, Will Robinson," or "To the Batmobile." Instead, she said, "Oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, I'm an idiot. Oh no, I'm sorry." Then she walked away, looking mortified. I feel bad for her, but I sat there chuckling, thinking, yeah, I'm posting this when I get home. And here I have. Jumping down to the comments on this one, we have one from a user called BluePlastic88. It says, why on earth did she think a car repair shop was going to pick up and haul away a broken washing machine? That's even more bizarre than her not noticing you didn't work there. Opie responded and said, yeah, it was perplexing. I can only assume that she thought that the service station also made money selling scrap metal. And maybe it does. I honestly have no idea. But it was so random. Another commenter down below called Straight Decision 73 said, how were you able to get all that in without being cut off or interrupted? That is how I talk. I'm on the spectrum, and I often give very wordy and over-explanatory responses. People hate it, but I'm usually not able to go on that long before someone tries to interrupt me, especially if they already don't like the response I'm giving them. Opie responded and said, it's called Don't Stop Talking Till You're Done. There's a few ways to refer to a completely clueless Karen like this one, like this line from the UK that says, that penny had a long way to fall. Or the old Andy Griffith line, that gal's cornbread ain't done in the middle. It was kind of refreshing that she realized her mistake though and apologized in the end, because a lot of stories from this subreddit do not end this way. They usually end with the Karen being kicked out of a store or even taken away by the police. This story comes to us from Astro's Dragon. She doesn't work here, but I do. I have a lot of stories from my retail days, so I thought I'd share a few here and there. For background, I used to be a supervisor for a local grocery chain and worked random shifts every day. At this particular time, each department had a different uniform color, but we were changing uniforms so everyone would be wearing the same thing. While waiting for the new uniforms, the employees were allowed to wear regular shirts or polo shirts, but they had to consist of the colors white, dark gray, navy blue, or robin egg blue, and have no writing on them. Pants had to be khaki or black. We also had very distinct name badges that were rather large with our name, the company name, and position title. To stand out, managers and supervisors wore red. On this particular day, I had pulled a double shift working from 10 p.m. until 2 p.m. the next day. When I was done, I was going to go do some grocery shopping and then head home to crash. My mom decided to come and start on the groceries for me so it wouldn't take too long to finish. At the time, she had just had both knees replaced and needed to use an electric cart to get around while she was still healing. On this particular day, she was wearing a blue jean jacket over a white shirt. I had already gotten off work, name badge in my pocket, and was grabbing something from a different aisle when I heard this guy start screaming at someone. I was curious and went to go see what was going on. I found this middle-aged man screaming at my mother, to the point that she was in tears. Immediately, I got between him and her and asked what the problem was. To paraphrase his rant and remove all the expletives, this lazy worker is rolling around in a cart meant for elderly customers and should be ashamed. She needs to get her butt out of that cart and do her job properly, or be fired. Where is the manager? I will admit, I don't get along with her most days, but in this instance, I went protective mode over her. I pointed to the walker attached to the front of her cart. Sir, this customer is obviously in need of this cart for a medical reason. She doesn't work here, but I do. I had taken my badge out of my pocket and put it back on my shirt in front of him so he could see my position title. And I'm going to have to ask you to leave. I will not have you in my store harassing customers as you see fit. Leave your alcohol and go. Now, I had a reputation at my work as being calm and collected, but when my buttons were pushed too far, well, let's just say I have squared up with unruly customers who were threatening my staff before. Our undercover security guys had been standing by and must have noticed that I was ready to knock the guy out. They moved in quickly to escort the guy out of the store and made sure he left the parking lot before I did. Did I get reprimanded? Yes, I did. For what? Not consulting the manager on duty and kicking out a customer while I was off the clock. Was it worth it? Heck yeah, it was. Jumping down to the comments on this one, we have one from a user called Wasky Tango Foxtrot. It says, "Your boss is an idiot. I would have said thank you for sticking up for a customer." Opie responded and said, "I wish it were that way, but mind you, this boss also suspended me for getting injured during a shoplifting attempt. I was not even working that day. I was a customer when the shoplifter banged me hard in the chest. When I left, it felt liberating. One of the worst feelings in the world is knowing you need your job, but absolutely hating the people that you work for. I know exactly how that goes, and I've kind of got to pop in here a screw you, Rick, because that's exactly how I felt when I was working for him. And I can completely agree with OP, the day that I quit working for Rick the Dick was the most liberating day of all." This story comes to us from Moonlight Menagerie, Lemon Juice Blues. I finally have a story of my own for this sub, though it's pretty tame compared to a lot of them here. I was doing my shopping at a store known for the color red. All employees are wearing red, so it's pretty easy to spot them. I was most definitely not wearing red, so we can all see where this is going. As I'm walking through the water aisle, this man stops me and gets very close to my face. So I take a step back and put my cart between us. He asks if I know where the lemon juice is, and I respond politely and say, "Sorry, I don't work here." This is not good enough for him though, and he continues, raising his voice a little for some reason, saying, "Well, I thought you might know from shopping here." Honestly, even if I did know where the lemon juice was, which I truly did not since I just moved here, I definitely wouldn't have told him now. It just seems super weird to first get right up in my face, and then not take my original no as a complete answer. He's even shaking his head at me as if I'm being completely unreasonable, and calls me rude. At this point, I just walk away from him, out of the aisle, whereupon I see not one, not two, but 3 employees, all sporting bright red shirts, that he would have had to pass to get to me. I'm not sure if he ever got his lemon juice, or if he ever figured out the person to ask at a store is an employee and not just a random woman in the water aisle. I got my shopping done though, so I guess that counts as a happily ever after for me. Jumping down to the comments on this one, we have one from a user called the Barano Beef Dip. It says, "What a dick. Like, getting nose to nose with somebody so they can smell your whiskey breath isn't 1,000 times more rude than being told someone doesn't work there." Opie responded and said, "Thank you. I even tried to be polite, despite his aggressive entrance, which he absolutely did not deserve." Another commenter down below called Skinny Dave SFW said, "My fantasy is that the next time someone mistakes me for an employee, I tell someone, 'You're right, I do work here, and I do know where the lemon juice is, but you suck and I don't want to tell you. This is, of course, if initially telling someone I don't work there has a crappy response. But I won't, I'm too bashful. Opie responded and said, same, I would love to say something like that, but I'm too scared to be mean. There are plenty of fun ways to deal with somebody like this that's getting right up in your face and mistaking you for somebody that you're not. Especially if you're in a grocery store or a big box store of some sort. Let's say you're on aisle 50 and they ask you where something is. You look them right in the eyes and say, oh, I think that's on aisle 2, which would send them to the opposite side of the store, so they're nowhere near you to bug you anymore. This story comes to us from FeedBitter502. He doesn't work here, lady. A little backstory. A while back, I came out as a trans woman, and everyone reacted as I expected. Family, friends, and coworkers. But my coworkers seemed to be more defensive over people dead naming me than anyone else. And with the staff turnover, it meant that the core staff would always introduce me to new staff as my preferred name, rather than my birth name. And lately, when new members see my legal birth name on the rota, they ask who that person is, which is what makes me laugh and reminds me of the following story. So, it's a mid-afternoon and I'm just in my room, possibly playing a game on my PC, but not important, when I get a call from Grandma. I say hello and ask what's up. She seems like her normal peppy self, but it's clear she's a little bit shocked and appalled that so many people at work don't know who I am. I'm a little confused as to what she's talking about, so I agree with her and ask her to explain. She tells me that she went to visit me at work, but when asking the staff behind the register, they'd never heard of me. I told her that we do get a lot of new staff, and maybe they haven't met me yet. She then proceeds to place the last piece of this puzzle and tell me that she asked for Jack, but no one had heard of a Jack working there. At this point, it all made sense, and I covered the phone speaker while I headbutted my computer desk. I reiterated that they must have been new and hadn't met me yet. Then we ended the call, and for once, I was looking forward to my next shift. I went in for my shift and casually said, "So, I heard my grandma visited the other day." And this is what they told me. Grandma walked up to the register and asked Newbie, who did actually know me, but as Jill, if Jack was in today. Newbie looked puzzled and told Grandma she doesn't know a Jack that works here. This was the first button pushed that set Grandma off on a speech that put me up on a pedestal, like I was someone to be very lucky to know. Then Andy showed up to the counter and my grandma asked if he could tell her if Jack was in today. Andy also only knew me as Jill, and thus he had no clue how to help Grandma out. Second button pushed. Grandma set off depicting me as a biblical god, only a little bit of an exaggeration. But luckily Mike knows me by both names, saw from behind the scenes what was going on, and quickly rushed around the counter to explain that Jack was not in today, but also informed her that I go by Jill now. All buttons pushed. Grandma quickly silences Mike and informs him that nobody uses that nickname around her because she doesn't like it. I wish I knew what other things were said during this moment of the confrontation, but when I caught up with Dylan, he gave me the ending I didn't know I needed. The whole time this was happening, Dylan was on his break in the restaurant area. He watched it all go down as he ate his meal, but then suddenly, Grandma turns around and walks towards him. Dylan thinks carefully about his next move. Grandma simply says to him, "I can't believe nobody in this store knows my grandson Jack." Dylan only knows me as Jill, but by now he's pieced together the puzzle, and Dylan loves to light the fuse, so to speak. So with an internal grin as devious as the Grinch, Dylan simply says, "Who's Jack?" And with that, Grandma raises her arms, shakes her head in disbelief, then storms out of the store to go home and call me. We all had a good laugh. I do love my grandma, and I accepted that she will only ever see me as her grandson, but when she decides to go to my place of work, where everyone respects my life choices, and dead names me in front of staff that have only been introduced to me as Jill, I honestly don't know what she thought she would accomplish there. Also, before I came out as trans, My grandma would visit the restaurant every now and then because my shifts had me sleeping throughout the day and working throughout the night, so it was the only way she'd get to see me on a busy week. But after that visit, she never came back to the restaurant again, and yet she still wonders why I don't visit her often. Jumping down to the comments on this one, we have one from a user called Pensive Games. It says, "Why does your Rhoda use your dead name? That's so stupid and confusing for everyone. Shame your grandma doesn't accept your true gender, but seems she still loves you in her own way. Maybe before she goes, she will finally accept all of who you are." If you enjoy daily Reddit stories, I encourage you to follow and add us to your favorites on whichever podcasting platform you enjoy the most. And if you're watching and listening on YouTube, please hit that subscribe button and drop a like on the video. It really helps us out. I thank you for watching and listening. I hope you have a wonderful day, and we'll see you tomorrow.